you subdivide it up to the degree that you want to have it. Let's say that you want to have, we're talking about like 3 million or so in terms of polygon count was like pretty solid for a head. You could go up to 12 million, but 3 million is a pretty good starting point. So, okay, let's subdivide our head a few times then. So at 3,000 points right now. So let's subdivide it quite a few times, right? So let's do Control D, subdivide, 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 once more, until we get to that magical 3 to 5 million mark. And now, this is what we're going to do. We are going to project the details from our sculpted head over to our retopologized head. Now, I could also do this in the context of using scan data if I have raw scan data. I'm doing this right now with a dynameshed head, but the process would be the exact same if I was starting from a scan here. And maybe we could do that, because maybe that could be a bit more interesting, I think. Maybe there would be more to gain from doing that. Because the project, the process you see will be exactly the same. The projection process will be exactly the same there. So why don't I actually do that? I'm kind of interested by trying that with you guys, as opposed to continue to work on this head here. Let me just go and load a scanned head here. Let's say that you do scan something. Maybe you've even scanned your own head using like I don't know, maybe an application on your phone, that would give you a very low res representation of your head, but there even is like things that you can use now to do that with your phone and stuff, Maybe you have even like scanned your own head or something. Or maybe you've bought a raw scan from 3D Scan Store, as what it is that we are looking at right now, So maybe you've acquired a scan in different ways, but if you have a raw scan at your disposal, which is what this is here, you're going to realize that your raw scans will always kind of look like this. They will always look very triangulated, like a triangulated soup of polygons. Now, because I bought this off of, or rather, this has been given to me from the guys at 3D Scan Store. Turns out that the first part here of the expressions, like you can buy expression packs off of 3D Scan Store, and which is very interesting if you want to study facial expressions and stuff. We've talked about that in the past there. So this is one of the scans that you could buy off of 3D Scan Store, of course, and it comes with all these different facial expressions there. But as you can see, so the first subtool here has a really nice, clean topology. But, let's say that you were working on this and this was a raw scan you had acquired from a different source. You would not have that topology to begin with, right? So let me just erase here the subdivision levels. And then let's do our process of wrapping one last time. Okay, I don't need Balthier's head here anymore. Our base head again. Once more, let's append the head that is our raw data. Let's go to our Z plugin, Z-wrap. Now, it just so happens that these are now suddenly this one's gone, right? Like, whoa, what's going on? Well, let's just rotate the camera and kind of find it. Oh, you can see they're not at all in the same position in space. The thing I had before, the two heads I had before, they were pretty much exactly in the same position in space in our 3D or in our tool there. So, they were kind of syncing up in a magical way. But in this case, they're not really. They're actually very, very far apart in our 3D scene here. So okay, that's kind of that's already a bit of a weird thing, right? So this is probably one of those cases where I would like to turn off the sync views button, so that now here I can find essentially those two heads. Independently. Okay, but I will still keep on this symmetry here. So one last time, 1, 2, 3 clicks, 1, 2, and 3. Let's go to our wrapping. So start our wrap. There you go. Mouth bag did not explode. That's good. Okay. Yeah, so this is pretty much equivalent as to what you would have. Yeah. See, I probably should have masked these out, right? I probably should have masked out the bags of the eye here, because now this kind of wrapped itself over the scan in a way that doesn't look all that great. Huh, okay, interesting, interesting. So, all right, let's do it one last time. But hey, this is a good demonstration. So at the same time, let me actually just make sure that I also mask out the mouth bag. Let's mask these two things out. Cool, cool, cool. Okay. But it's so quick to do that. It's fine, right? X, X, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and 3. Now that's a lot better. This point was probably in the wrong position. That's probably why it kind of happened like that. Because this mesh was asymmetrical to begin with. So you can see what kind of happens if you don't place your points in the proper location. Should we do this one last time? Yeah, hell, I want some clean data. Let's just do it one last time. I guess this is a good education into all the little problems that you're going to have and how do you address those. So I think that this is not a bad way to use our time. One last time. I've said that for the last 3 times. That kind of makes me think of that Spider-Man movie that kind of came out, like um, it's Into the Spider-Verse. I love that movie so much. It's so good. It's like they kind of say that throughout the movie too. Like, okay, guys, let's do this one last time. Every time there's a new Spider-Man that like goes on screen, it's great. Okay, so yeah, I should probably keep symmetry off then. So 1, 2, let me be careful in clicking on the canvases. And then careful in pressing on the mouth corners. So this goes here, this goes there, this goes here, there, here, and then here. That's pretty good. I like that. Mouth back, solid. Solid, guys. Looking pretty good. Love it. Yeah, so as I said, this is pretty much equivalent to having a dynamesh at this point. So you take this, you subdivide it. Now, perhaps a little nifty trick I can use at this point. If I subdivide this, I'm going to lose all volume here for my for the eyelids that I have, right? I'm going to lose all the volume there. Wouldn't it be nice if we had a way to harden those edges to make sure that they stayed relatively sharp all the way throughout the subdivision? Well, I'm glad you asked. Because we have a separation between our polygroups here. Let's go to our little crease button here. Let's put the crease level at 2 maybe, so that it's not too violent, right? Let's put our crease tolerance back to its 90 degree, or actually it probably wouldn't change much because we want to do a crease polygroup supporter. Let's do that. And now we subdivide. And it's fine that these stay like these, actually, because now I'm preserving all these nice hard edges that I have everywhere. This will just help me to just have a better structure to the head afterward. So that's awesome, actually. And let's go up to 3 million. Here we go. We're good. By the way, guys, I'll probably fix this on the handout, okay? But at the time of recording this, in the handout, there's just a slightly little issue here with the polygroups, as you guys can see. Just a very slight issue. I need to fix that. I'll fix that and I'll re-upload the handout, by the way. So if you, I'll probably do that later today or at tomorrow at the very latest there. So if you are watching the recording on AgaNet Studio, you don't have to worry about that. Unless you are watching it right after we had recorded this, this will be fixed. But for those of you who are live right now, it's good to know that if you download the handout right now, there's a little tiny little issue here that I need to fix with the polygroups. Cool. Okay, all right. So what do we do now? We have to do a projection to reacquire all that data that we have sacrificed. We want to do a projection. Let's go to layers. I like to create a layer just for safety's sake, okay? Because we are now in subdivision mode with our head, we may as well do that. Let's create a new layer. May as well take advantage of that. And at the same time, why don't I also take advantage of the fact that I have morph targets at my disposal? Ain't that also nice? So why don't, at the same time, I go to my morph target tab right here, create, or rather store a morph target. So now I have both a layer in record mode and I have a morph target that is stored, all for safety reasons. And what do we do now? We do this. We go back down our history to our subdivision level 1, right? So I hold down Shift D until I was back down to the number 1. And now in my subtool menu right here, I will go all the way down to a place where it's written project. I will go in here to start projecting the raw data over our clean subdivision data. And here, I will simply press and project all. If we start having issues, we can play with this distance value here, by the way. If you guys start to see that your projection starts to look like Swiss cheese, you'll see what I'm referring to. If it happens to you, it's going to be very obvious. You just increase this little value right here, just very, very slowly, It's at 0.02 right now, put it at 0.04, then 8, and just increase it very slowly, guys. But if you start having a Swiss cheese effect, this is what you need to tweak. I don't know whether we'll get one right now or not, but I guess we'll just see what happens. Maybe also for safety reason, before I start doing projection, let me mask out our eye bag and also our mouth bag. Just for safety's sake. And let's do our projection. Project all. One more visible subtools contains polypaint data. In this case, I'll say no. I could say yes. And this will project, okay? If I get out of solo mode here, now we can see the both meshes here. The projection will simply just do what the name says. It will simply, take the vertices of one mesh and move them until they match the position on the surface of the other mesh that we have. And we will do this at every subdivision level that we have. So I'm going to press D to go up one subdivision level. I will do project all. Every time we'll say no here. I'll press D, project all. I'll keep an eye out too. I'll make sure this doesn't explode, because sometimes it explodes in your face, and then that's where the morph target starts to become interesting. But for now, seems that everything is looking pretty good. The mouth bag and eye bag would definitely explode, by the way. And I think we have pretty much only one level to go. No, 2 levels to go above that. Now, actually, if we want to be especially smart about this, once I get to over maybe about this level or so, maybe 200,000, yeah, once I get to this level or so, I could actually create a new layer if I wanted to. In this case, probably not going to make much of a difference, because we do have some tertiary details here on this scan, but they're actually no, they're within the mesh directly. So actually, this will be fine. Okay, why don't we do that just for the sake of it? Now, if you want to be especially cute, it's not necessary to do that. But if you want to be especially cute, you could also do something where once you reach about this level or so, maybe a lower, maybe a level under that, you could stop. You could get out of record mode, create a new layer, maybe call it tertiary detail or something. It's not necessary to do that, but I don't know. Sometimes it could make it extra clean, perhaps. Go back down to where we were before, so that was about 700 or so. And then continue the projection until we get to our top level there. So, okay, let's do project all again. Continue refusing that. Yeah, you can see I'm starting to have issues here, right? This is the kind of problem that I was kind of that I was going to be wary of. But we can clean that. We can clean that up. We can talk about that. But first, let me just finish this global projection that we have over the whole head. So I'm finally at my highest level, and we will do our last projection. I was wary of the mesh trying to explode like that in different zones. This is quite normal for this to happen. But you start with a global pass like that. You start by just globally kind of projecting everything that you got. And then afterward, you go in there and you start fixing those more localized zones that kind of have broken and exploded in your face there. So last projection. Completed. And you guys can see now that I can now turn my recording off. I can maybe hide the second subtool. I'm in solo mode now, so we don't even see it, but it still is technically there. I'll just hide it so that we can just disregard it for now and not worry about it anymore. And you can see now that I have, let's say, this layer here from my tertiary details. And I have this layer here for the more the shape, if you will. Now, it just happens that this layer here, I kind of had it here as a bit of a safety layer. I didn't really want to keep it in the end. I could, though. I could continue to work on this, but ultimately, at the end of the day, it's really just the tertiary details I kind of want to have on a separate layer there. So I could actually bake down my first layer. I could actually do that so that I can kind of get rid of it and only have to worry with one layer here. So, hey, why don't we do that, right? Why don't we do that here? So the process there isn't that complicated, but like, do listen carefully to the steps I'm about to tell you, because the steps do matter. Let me start by hiding. I want to kill the first layer, right? I want to get rid of the first layer, but I obviously don't want to just select it and just delete it, because then that detail is gone and the only thing that would be left is my tertiary details, which wouldn't look all that great. And I also don't want to merge them, because then this would not be tertiary details anymore. I mean, depending on whose definition of tertiary details you're going to ask, maybe it will be, but in my case here, I like to consider it that is not the case. So I also can't just merge these two together, right? That also doesn't work. So I need to bake the first layer, but keep the second layer there. So I can't just do a bake all either, as you can imagine. So yeah, it's kind of weird, right? It's like, okay, so what do we do here exactly? Well, this is what we do. We hide all the layers that we want to preserve. We want to keep these as layers. We don't want them to change. We don't want them to disappear. And we keep as visible only the layers that we want to merge down into the base of our head there, into the base of our object there. So with only the first layer that is visible right now, I will actually go ahead and bake my morph target out. Actually, give me a second, guys. I'm realizing this is actually not a proper way. Okay. What I'm showing you guys is the proper way of working, but I'm realizing now actually I'm actually getting ahead of myself here. Okay. We'll come back to this in just a minute, guys. But I actually realized that because we have only one morph target, I have to keep the one that I have in memory right now. It's important that I actually keep it. Okay. All right. We'll come back on this in just a minute. Before I get rid of the layer that's here, I simply have to fix this here. Essentially, I have to fix the all the places where it kind of exploded there. Okay, here's what I'm going to do then. I'm going to create a new layer. And here, let's just call it fix. Okay, I'm going to move it between my first layer and my tertiary detail layer. And I'm going to turn on recording on this. And now we will take our morph brush. And this is the moment where we want to blend back to our morph target. Because our morph target was stored before I did my projection. Now, we're obviously going to lose a lot of details here, but that's actually fine. That doesn't bother me. We'll bring back that detail afterward. But I can morph back to my eyes before all this had just exploded in my face. No dirty jokes, please. I'm speaking to myself right now. And same thing with the mouth. If we look at the corners of the mouth, this is actually also kind of wonky looking, right? Let me also kind of just a bit of very gentle morphing here, just to kind of kill a lot of these artifacts that we had there. But because we have also different polygroups, I could also control-click, lower lip, and go in here and start to very nicely and slowly clean this up. Inverse the visibility. And finish cleaning up the top of the lip. All right, and now I'm free to merge my layers. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, I'm going to hide my tertiary detail. I want to keep them. Now, you cannot stop this from happening, unfortunately, because the tertiary detail layer records the difference between two layers. So this kind of happens. It's kind of fortunately, it's kind of expected that this would also kind of blow up in your face. So let me just go in here in my tertiary detail layer and also kind of clean that up. I just more or less have to do the same thing. A second time. But like, that's why too, like, you know, you can see that like preserving like a layer at this point just for the tertiary details that come from the scan It does kind of make it a bit more complicated in terms of workflow. If I did not really bother with having this, or if I start from a sketch, a Dynamesh sketch, I probably wouldn't have tertiary details to begin with, so I wouldn't have to deal with this complexity there. I probably wouldn't even have like a separate layer for my tertiary details. But it's good to make our life more complicated here, just because I think that there's a bit more to gain from it, right? In terms of knowledge. Ooh, a few little artifacts here too. But yeah, I'll just disregard these for now. Oh, maybe one last thing actually, before I do bake these two layers together. Maybe we don't like that he's wearing a bit of a hat here, and we would like to get rid of that, which once more is the reason why we have our morph to begin with, right? So, okay, maybe I should actually get rid of this from my tertiary details as well. Could get rid of the hair here if I want. Just get rid of all of that. Just kill all that information. Okay. So these two layers. So let's bake these down. So how do we do that? Well, now that these two layers are the ones that are visible, this is what I'm going to do now. I'm going to go to my morph target tab, delete morph target, because we can have only one in memory, so I kind of need to get rid of it, unfortunately. I will do store morph target, so I will restore in memory essentially a new morph target. Go to my layers, erase the layers I want to get rid of. So here I will simply delete this and delete the first one. And now that my tertiary details are essentially on a layer here that is hidden when I click on this little eye here, I can, continue working on this if I want to. But in this case, the only thing I really want is to just switch to my morph target that I have stored. So let's go down to our morph tab. And why don't we click on this little switch button? And you can see as I click on this one, it simply switches between the mesh the way that it is right now and the mesh that is in memory. It's just going to do a swap there. So I'm just going to swap until I have this data here. And now I am back here and I have only one layer for my tertiary details. As you can see, and it's relatively clean, right? Okay, what else could I do? So we did lose a slight amount of subtlety around the eyes. Now, I could smooth out the little artifacts that are left over. I could do a whole bunch of stuff with this. I could just accept that it's not like the scan and maybe just go back in there, maybe just start to clean that up a little bit with my brush, maybe just to smooth it out and hand sculpt it back in the way that it kind of looked before. I could definitely do something like that. I could say like here, maybe just create a new layer that would not be for tertiary details. I could definitely go in here, take my standard brush, start to sculpt this out, be like, okay, this is a little too sharp right now. Let me like sort of blend this out a little bit. Let me take my standard brush with a lower intensity. Could start to like sculpt this back in the way that it kind of looked before. Yeah, I could definitely do that, right? We are sculptors after all. There's nothing wrong with doing something like that. But if I really wanted to be picky about this, and like be like, okay, but no, but I want to get as close as possible to these eyes here that I had on my scan before. Well, then at that moment, I would say, well, all right, if that's really what I want to do, I would go back in my layers. I would uh, just delete this test layer that I've created, just to recreate it brand new. And then I would simply do the process again of going back down my subdivision levels. And then maybe at a level 2, perhaps, and then I would start to be just extremely careful with my projections. Just be a lot more careful with my projections. I could even just start by maybe start to isolate these two polygroups here, maybe, and say I really just want to work on just these two here, right? And then maybe here I can just do and just very, very sort of, and even let me just mask this out here. Take this, mask it, bring back the visibility of the whole object. And now I simply want to click on this, click on these two here, so that these are the only two these only two polygroups that are visible right now. Or inversely, perhaps lastly, maybe the fastest way to do it would be to take this polygroup, mask it, unhide the whole object, and then invert the mask. That's not bad either, right? I could maybe blur it a little bit. And then, I would simply very sort of carefully, just very carefully, do a projection once more on this particular zone. And before I do that, let's restore in memory our morph target at the highest subdivision level, else our morph target isn't going to work all that great. Yeah, you can see here it's working here. Unfortunately, there's just too much of a delta here because of the skin fold and stuff. I'm feeling that the top is just, I think it's a bit of a lost cause, unfortunately. I think there's just too many layers of vertices close to each other that it seems to me right now that the top is perhaps a bit of a lost cause. But I could still, I could still mask it and maybe get away with the lower lid, and then whatever difference there is on the top lid, I could just hand sculpt it at that point. But yeah, this doesn't work too bad for the lower lid, right? do this, project, project, project. I'll keep an eye out the moment that it starts to screw up like that. I'll just go in here and I'll just make sure to just move this out so that it doesn't get out of control. Let's see how it looks like on the other side. Okay, let's go up to one subdivision level, projectile again. It's gonna start to screw up here more and more. Again here, could probably smooth it once more. Probably fine. Yeah, that's gonna work fine. Probably don't need to use the morph target, but I could use the morph too. It's there in case that this becomes a little too violent. I'm not gonna do the other eye just in the interest of time. And yeah, see here, like I'm starting to not be able to smooth this out, or the smooth brush is always slower and slower. So yeah, at some point, let's just swap back over to our morph brush, and let's just morph this instead. And that's probably as good as I'm gonna get it, really. It's probably as good as it's gonna get. All right, so one thing we didn't really have time to talk about, but I would invite you guys to think through, because we have seen everything that we need for that, and it is extremely interesting and powerful to do so. One thing that we haven't talked about is the idea that if I have, let's say, a library of scans with different facial expressions, as I do here, maybe we can do one really quickly. Why don't we do that? I think it's interesting. It's going to take us about 5 minutes, and I think you'll get something really, really cool out of it. I kind of want to do it. Let's take 5 minutes, and then we'll take the Q&A after that. Okay. I have a smile here. I want that smile on my other face. I want it. I want it bad. I want it. Okay, so what do we do then? How do we get this cat in there? Let's do it. Let's make it happen. All right, so where was my base head again? It was this one here, right? Cool, cool, cool. Okay, so I don't need this expression or this neutral face anymore. I can just delete it. I've pretty much gotten everything I was going to get out of that. But I want this now. I want this smile within this, on this base mesh now. So let's go to append. Let's add our smile to our scene. So now we have neutral head, smiling head. And let's do the process again. Okay, let's create a new layer here yet again. Call it smile. Let's go to our lower subdivision level. Let's go to our Z-wrap. And let's get our point correspondences going again. Now, truth be told, I'm not going to worry about this place here because, actually, no. I mean, if you're going to get someone who smiles, the eyes are certainly actually pretty important. So actually, I will worry about the eyes a little bit. But they should be in a very, very similar position there. Oh yeah, yeah. See, not good to use symmetry in this case because this face is too asymmetrical. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, let me remember the order there. Turn off symmetry. 1 or 0, 1, 2, and 3. 4 and 5. I haven't masked the mouth bag critically. I guess we'll see what's going to happen there. I'm kind of curious. Let's do our wrapping. Ah, there you go. Got a huge tongue now. I was waiting for the mouth bag to do that at some point. One, two, 3, 4, 5, and 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Well, I clearly screwed something up. 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I probably added a point too much here. Has to be it, right? Oh yeah, there's a 0.0 here. I guess I misput somewhere. Let me just redo it. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh yeah, I should have masked the eyes too, as you can imagine. But that's okay. Okay, we had some issues there. I will need to extend this further forward. My mask was too far back. So let's hide this. Control and grow our selection the way that we had seen it before. Just make sure that I get something that's very, very clean here. It's very important. Actually, not that important, but still. Once more until we get about here. So I think that's probably pretty good. We could even go maybe one more. Actually, let's go all the way here. Could I go one more? Oh, I could try it. Okay, let's try that. Mask this. Well, since I am here, I may as well then, right? I may as well. Okay, guys, let's do this one last time. Hmm. Well, as you can see, there are some limitations. If I had extended this mask forward, it's possible could have get to the point where this would not have started happening, but it's because there's the teeth there in the scan. At some points, like yeah, you're probably gonna have a hard time to get something like 100% clean, right? So sooner or later you have to put some elbow grease in there, unfortunately. But at this point, it still got us really, really close, right? Could definitely just go in here and just start to smooth this out. But yeah, because there are teeth on the scan, unfortunately, I guess I have to accept that this will never be perfect. I could actually, guys, this is a really great idea. Why don't we do something here? Why don't we erase the teeth then? If the teeth are problematic, let's just get rid of the teeth. It's as simple as that, right? Why not? Let's just get rid of the teeth. Let's take our select lasso tool. Let me start to hide everything but the teeth. And now I will inverse visibility of my object and I will delete hidden from geometry, modify topology, delete hidden. Click on that. How much do you guys want to bet it's going to look great now? Okay, this is still masked. Perfect. And they're so close together that I may not even have to do the point correspondences. I could probably just go in here and just do this straight up. Yeah, so we are getting closer and closer, right? So I guess I won't complete this demonstration, but you guys pretty much see what's kind of going on here. At this point, I could probably start to smooth this out, or maybe start to even just carve this out, because now the mouth bag's starting to become a little too small, right? But yeah, so you kind of slowly get closer and closer to where you want to be. It's not that much work, really. Could just push this inward here a little bit. It look pretty good. And I won't do the projection through the different layers, but I could definitely do it to get extra detail out of my scan. And now you can see that now I have my smile here. Now, it's morphing the whole thing, right? It's probably not a good thing. So let's do something. First, let me hide these tertiary details. Let me create a new morph target. Let me go to morph. Let me delete morph target, store morph target. Take my smile, get rid of it. I don't need it anymore. Create a new layer. I will now call this one smile. And because I have the old smile, if you see what I mean, that is stored in my morph target, now I can actually take my morph brush, turn on symmetry. It's going to go a bit faster. And I can smile. I can morph back to my smile. Now, of course, one of the challenges is that because it's doing a projection, you always want to make sure that your scans are as aligned as they possibly can, so that you get the least amount of shifting around and stuff. But for the most part, I mean, we're kind of there, right? If we're just a bit more careful, and if I kind of took care of the contour of the eye a little bit better, maybe I kind of realigned these two scans here, because the scans, maybe they're just a little too different, as you can see, they're kind of shifting around a little bit. I probably could have moved them around a little bit closer together there. I could have gotten something pretty solid out of this with just a few more careful steps involved in the process there. So that's kind of it, guys. That's the class. That's what I want to show you guys. Okay, so it's been a while. It's 20 minutes to 4 o'clock here. Let's move to our Q&A, guys. Let's move to our Q&A. I'll keep an eye on the Q&A channel, see if there's any interesting questions in there. There are a few. Awesome. Okay, let me go through. So starting this week, let's start to go these in a chronological fashion, so that people who have asked a question a while ago, you get your answer relatively quickly. So at 246, Angelina, how would you transfer your details from the Dynamesh head back to the subdivided one? Well, I guess we've answered that. So. Awesome. I believe that that is satisfactory as an answer. I hope so. Kind's piece, 252. Same question. If you guys need more information on that, let me know. But I think this was a pretty good demonstration of that. Kind's piece at 334. Say I have a 3D model of a character. It has good topology. It has details. But when I have a set of expressions like you have from 3D Scan Store of a real person, my character does not look at all like the expression set 3D model. Is there a way I could use the expression sets to match my 3D character? Oh, that's a good question. Is there a way I could use the expression sets to match my 3D character to those expressions without making him lose the actual shape of his face? Thing, of course, done automatically. If you use ZRAP on that, you'll obviously have your 3D model topology to match the shape of the expressions to that person, but not your actual character. You have seen a video from Sony Santa Monica having done something like this, but it's much about rigging. You're so lost. Yes,